So let me just start off by introducing myself. In case you're new to me, my name is Rachel Friedman. I am, first off, a mom, right? A mom. I've got 5 kids, 2 of my own and 3 step kids, and all of our kids are ages 13 to 16. So our house is quite fun and sometimes a little chaotic, but it is overall a pretty amazing place to be and live in. Also, I am a survivor, a thriver of emotional eating, and it is in my past, I say, something that I have learned how to cope with, how to move past. And it's really, this topic is really close to my heart. It is so much a part of my journey as an adult, as a human. I am also, just, a little background about me. I am a licensed therapist. Don't practice therapy anymore. I am now a life coach. I really appreciate and have gained so much from the methodology. I'm also a master level yoga teacher and still teach some yoga around the Atlanta area, which I do love. So let me start a little bit about my journey, what got me into this work, and hopefully that will help you, comfort you a little bit, so you can know I've been there and now I'm on the other side. So when I was about 13 years old, I was a gymnast, and our coach used to put us on the scale. I was on a competitive gymnastics team, and he would say if you weighed more than a certain amount, he would kind of make fun of you in front of the rest of our teammates, and he would tell you to go home and stop eating so much. Well, the way the brain works, as I know now as an adult who has studied the brain, that when you tell the brain to do something, it is going to resist and rebel. And that is actually exactly what my brain did. So between the ages, I would say about 13 and 15, I probably put on about 20 pounds. As you can see, I'm a pretty small person. And that was a lot of weight really quick on my little frame. As I entered high school, I was already a little bit probably on the overweight side. In high school, with the stress of trying to get good grades and social pressures, able to, for the most part, keep my weight at that same weight. But I really struggled with it. I really found that I started to internalize, really hate on my body a lot. And I went through a lot of cycles. I would eat too much and then not eat anything just to kind of maintain that weight. It was also in high school when I first got introduced to dieting. I love my mom dearly, but right away she felt like this was a problem. In our family, everyone was very small, and all of a sudden I was not. So right away she took me to Weight Watchers, Nutrisystem, oh my God, you named it. I've tried that diet. And then went off to college. And of course, I stopped moving my body. I stopped doing gymnastics, stopped exercising. And what did I do? I started using food even more. I started using food to comfort myself. All the stress of getting good grades and the studying, and again, the pressure actually just caused me to now not just eat, but start drinking too. And fortunately, my college roommate freshman year, loved her, amazing girl, but had really struggled also with emotional eating and body image issues. So we'd go to the mess hall and we'd eat, and boy, could she eat. She could pack it in. What I didn't know that I learned later, that she was actually bulimic and purging. I didn't do that. I ate, but then it just was kind of left with me. I ended up putting on probably another 25 to 30 pounds. So you can imagine my frame now, about, 50 pounds more than I am now. And if you're just joining us, I'm just telling a little bit of story about how I got into this work. If you can just keep yourself muted, and if you have any questions, you can just add them in the chat box. So anyways, as I continue with the story, so in college, put on a good 30 more pounds. So that's about 50 pounds more than I weigh right now. And I felt horrible, horrible, horrible. So I kept going on that diet cycle, yo-yo dieting. And fortunately, my senior year in college, I met a young man, a very sweet young man who I ended up dating for many years. And he was very into fitness and exercising. He got me exercising, got me running. And the running, and then starting to be a little more mindful with my eating, I lost about 20 pounds. But I still wasn't anywhere near where I wanted to be. Graduated college, and I moved to New York City to get my graduate degree at NYU. And in New York City, Oh God, this is like 20 years ago. Everyone I thought was so skinny. So of course, what did I want? I wanted that body that all those other young people had. And so I picked up some really awful habits. I already had a lot. I added some more to the pile. And I was very mean to my body. I was just lots of hateful talk and conversation. And I would go through spurges of eating nothing and then, of course, binging. Unfortunately, I guess, unfortunately, I was able to lose a little more weight, but it wasn't really maintainable weight because unless I continued these horrible patterns, the weight would come on and go off and on and off. And then in my, after I finished school and moved back home, I started my job as a therapist, and I realized I really had something that I needed to work on. So I dove right into therapy. That's what you do as a therapist, right? But unfortunately in therapy, we just talked about it. But I could never seem to get to the root of what was going on for me. Fortunately for me, around this time, I also discovered yoga. And yoga, I say, is kind of like the magic answer. So it taught me how to connect to my body, how to feel my feelings again. What I didn't realize, I was totally tuned out, I was totally numb. Yoga helped me tune back in. And I'm so grateful for yoga. And I fell in love with the practice that I left doing therapy, counseling, and I started teaching yoga. And I got really, really popular and really good at it. And over the years, I ended up owning my own yoga studio, and I ended up going through many yoga teacher trainings. And one of the trainings I went through, we did a deep dive into what we call self-inquiry, self-study. This is when I fell in love with this process of learning more about yourself, learning about stories and the lies that we grew up telling ourselves, and how to change them, how to rewire it. So just to fast forward a little bit quicker, right? This is kind of a long story, right? I fell into coaching, and I realized that coaching, very similar to yoga, was a lot like yoga off the mat. And I realized that this was my calling, that I have had this journey, right? Knowledge, learning all sorts of tools, and then self-experience of how to do it. The greatest thing I can tell you is that I held on to those last 10, 15 pounds for a really long time until I started to do the work I'm going to teach you today. I didn't change my diet. I didn't start exercising anymore. What I did is I started to let go of the emotional baggage, the emotional weight. As I started to release that emotional weight and learn how to truly process my feelings, change some of my habits and my behaviors, and do the inner work, the physical weight just fell off my body. I can tell you, I've been the way I am today, oh God, 5 or 6 years now. I'm pretty proud of it. And I say this is work that you're gonna have to do day in and day out every day. And I'm gonna invite you, if you stay to the end, to join me at the end of the MasterClass for a free session with me. And it's a discovery session to learn more about you, and we'll create a plan, and we'll decide if continuing working together will best serve you or not. So let's dive in. I know that's what you showed up for today. So how to overcome emotional eating. This is simply what's going to happen. There's a circumstance, a trigger, something that's super stressful in your life, or maybe not even super stressful, but just stressful. And it makes you feel shitty. And then what do? You eat to feel better. Because the way the brain works is it always is looking for 3 things. It's always seeking pleasure, security, and comfort. So when you're uncomfortable, or your security is being challenged, or you just, don't feel good, you don't feel safe, you're gonna do something. Your brain wants to do something to get out of that place. Food makes us feel better. That is a fact. It sends hormones to our body, and those hormones make us feel better. But there are other ways too that we can make ourselves feel better and not use food. Okay, so we're gonna go through 3 simple steps today. I like things to be simple, and I like to break them down into steps. It's how I learned that. So the first step is learning to feel your feelings. If you were like me and totally tuned out, and maybe you still are and you just don't realize it, you won't even know how to process feelings, right? It's actually something that we have to learn. We're gonna teach you how to identify your triggers and understand your thoughts. If you can master these 3 steps, I promise you can start to begin this process of mastering overcome emotional eating. Let's dive in. Step 1. I want you to close your eyes for a moment. Okay? And I want you to feel into your body. If you're like, oh God, Rachel, I don't feel anything in my body. Close your eyes for a moment. Start to wiggle your toes. Start at the base of your toes. And then work your energy, your brain power from your feet all the way up through the crown of your head. And just notice what you feel. Feelings live in our bodies, guys. They don't live outside of us. Feelings are just physical sensations in our body. So many of us have this idea that feelings are this big, huge thing. What all feelings are sensations in our body. So right now, you take your hands and squeeze them really hard. How does that feel? Like, to me, it feels closed and tight. If you open your hands, how does that feel? Open, loose. Okay, so just notice two different sensations, two different feelings. Closed, tight, open, loose. Okay, guess what? We can handle all feelings. How do I know that? Because we can. Because you wouldn't have them if you couldn't handle them. Might not think you can handle them, but you really can. Okay, so where do your feelings come from? We're going to dive into that in just a moment. But before we do, take a moment. What are you afraid to feel? Most of us are afraid to feel sadness on some level, despair, fear, unhappiness, even though we're already feeling those things all the time. What are you afraid to feel? I want you to see if you can identify it. And what are you afraid might happen if you feel that feeling? So starting to learn where the feelings are being trapped, right, in your body is where we're going to go next. But first, I want you to know, what are you even afraid of? Because most of us are afraid of something, and we're not even sure why. So how to feel your feelings? Start by scanning your body. Then you're going to identify the sensations in your body. When you find an area of your body that just feels a little off, or feels amazing, because feelings aren't just bad. Feelings can be incredible, right? We don't have one without the other. But you want to then stop and describe that feeling with as much detail as possible. Right? Like, is it tight? Is it open? Right? Does it feel warm? Does it feel cool? Does it feel constricted? How does it feel? Describe it to yourself. So right now, as you close your eyes, notice where your mind goes in your body. If you're feeling any tightness or tension right now, I want you to find it, locate it. I want you to describe it. The third step is you want to give that sensation a name. So if you're feeling tightness, or you're feeling tension, or unease in any way right now, give that feeling right now a name. Maybe it's anxiety, stress, unhappiness, anger, sadness. It doesn't matter. Give it a name. Feelings mean names, and then they become concrete. Describing how that feeling feels in your body in this moment is going to center you. And then you bring you into the present moment. Not to where your brain wants to go, which is either the future or the past. The last step is you have to sit with the feeling, no matter what it is. Learning to sit with your feelings is key. The uncomfortable ones, the great ones, all of the ones in between. This takes work, guys, and it's not always easy. It's being willing to be uncomfortable. That's where growth comes from, sitting in the discomfort. Think about your life. Think about anything you've ever overcome. One has always had to go through the discomfort to get to the other side. Okay, guys, step 2. Look at triggers. So I love going to Google. Google says triggers are a certain circumstance that causes a negative response. So just something happens, a circumstance, you have a negative response to it. Fear, sadness, panic, pain. Those are some triggers for people. Now, this is how I see it. Circumstance happens. All circumstances are actually neutral. That's for another day, if you haven't heard my talk on it. But every circumstance is neutral. What we think about it is what makes it feel good or bad. Okay? So a trigger, for example, kid comes home and crashed the car. That's pretty stressful. My son's learning to drive. You have a thought about it, and that thought creates a negative response. Now, what you do with that negative response is what matters. Can you sit with it, or do you need to get yourself out of that experience right away and go find something to eat or something to drink? For some people, it's go shopping. We call it, in the coaching world, buffering. So, are you buffering? Most of us do. Okay, so 3 ways to process your triggers. The first 2 are on default, and it's the way most of us do it. The third one is the way I'm going to encourage you to do it. Push through. So you have a circumstance, a trigger, something happens. You have a thought about it. You don't pay attention to the thought. It happens so quick for most of us. Creates a terrible feeling in your body. You ignore the feeling in your body and you push through and you just keep going. Okay? So then what are you left with? Feeling a low energy, feeling pretty shitty. Okay? Remember though, the brain wants to feel better, so what does it do? It's going to find something to get you feeling better. You don't even know all this happened, and you find yourself in the pantry. You find yourself in the fridge with a tub of ice cream. Because you pushed through, and you didn't let yourself sit and feel the feeling. The second way that often goes in conjunction with the first way, that's on default for most of us, is called distraction. There's a circumstance, right? It triggers you. You have a negative thought. Once again, you have a negative thought. That negative thought creates a horrible feeling in your body. Same thing's going on. But this time, instead of pushing it down, you find something to distract you from that feeling. Often food. Sometimes alcohol. Sometimes you might go jump on the couch and binge watch something on Netflix. But it's something that's going to take you out of this shitty feeling. But remember, the shitty feeling is still there because you didn't process through it. Think about it this way. You have a stack of apples, all fresh, and then you have one bad apple, and you stick it in the stack. What happens? It's going to brown everything below it, and then start to brown everything above it. If you don't process through your feelings, that one slice is going to create havoc on you mentally, physically, and emotionally. Just like the apple is going to wreak havoc on your entire stack. So how do we process these crazy things called feelings, guys? Woo! They're a big fucking deal. Okay, so there's a healthy way to process. The first one is know your triggers. Know what sets you off. What's going to piss you off? What angers you? What fires you up? So right now you can ask yourself, what has triggered me lately? That's going to start to give you a signal, a sign, right, of some of the things that trigger you. You want to make a list. You want to know ahead of time, and you want to remind yourself. And then you want to start to ask yourself, this is where some of the deeper work is going to come in. What was I thinking? What was I thinking when this trigger happened? When this circumstance happened? Why did it bother me? What did I make it mean about me? What did I say to myself? This is important, to take the time to ask these questions and to answer them for yourself. What you make it mean about you is going to determine whether or not you keep emotionally eating or not. Okay, this is where we dive in, guys. The third step, you have to comfort the thought, okay? So you had a thought about the trigger, right? Maybe like, so maybe you've been trying to follow a very strict intermittent fasting eating plan. You have a really stressful day at work, and then you get home, and your kids have colored on the wall, okay? So you lose it, right? And then you have a thought that nobody respects me, no one cares about this house but me, okay? And so you feel like crap, and you make it mean that nothing you're doing is good enough. Because you're not home with the kids and you're trying to work, right? All of a sudden you feel crappy. You feel crappy, so what do? You want to feel better. So go reach for the cookie jar. But I want to ask you, what else could it mean about you? This thought, whatever thought it was you had. Because what else could I believe about myself other than I'm not doing a good enough job or I failed? Right? Because here's the thing, when you think that, you feel like crap. But when you think, okay, I'm doing the best I can with the circumstance I've got right now, how do you feel? A lot better. Yeah, this happened. Okay, we're going to get it off the wall. Right? But when you start to make it mean things about you, you go down a downward spiral. We want to stop that right here. So you got to comfort yourself though, right? You got to comfort your brain. It doesn't like if you say, no, that's not true. It doesn't mean that about you. So you're going to comfort your brain first. Yeah, okay, so I think maybe it means I'm not doing a really good job. I failed as a mom, right? Or whatever it is you're thinking. I failed at this diet. You know, I failed at this eating plan. Whatever's going on in your brain. And then you want to also ask your brain, what else could it mean? Right? I'm learning. I'm learning how to eat healthier. I'm learning how to manage my stress better. And then you want to go out and find some proof, because your brain needs proof. So it already thinks its default thought. You're going to comfort the default thought. You're going to find a replacement thought. And then that replacement thought, you have to go out and find proof how it also might be true. This is the work that I do with my clients one-on-one. We're going to find all those default thoughts for you, and we're going to rewire them. Because if you don't rewire them, you don't get to the root, guys. This problem is going to keep manifesting. If it doesn't manifest through eating and you get over that, it's going to show up in another way. That's what happened for me. All right, little point here. Don't argue with your subconscious ever, guys. It will always win. Validate it and instead look for alternative things to think and find proof for your alternative thoughts. Okay, this brings us into step 3, understanding your thoughts. This is my secret formula. You have a circumstance, a trigger, right? You have thoughts about it. Now you're becoming more aware of what those thoughts are. You have feelings. Those feelings are going to have you take action in some way or another. That's how you get your current result. If you want a new result, we can't change a circumstance. We know that it's neutral. We can't necessarily change the triggers. They're going to happen. We can change how we think about them, which will change how we feel about them, which will change our actions, what we do or don't do, which will ultimately create the result that we want. I want you to get really specific right now, because we're talking about our bodies, right? We're talking about emotional eating. What are your thoughts about your body right now? Write it down. I remember I was working with a client just the other day, and I was asking her this question. We had just started. We just begun. She goes, well, my body is disgusting. Great. Good. I asked her, how did those thoughts make you feel? And she said, sad, angry, frustrated. And I was like, perfect. All right. So now we know where our starting point is. Now, my sheet is all stuck, guys. Okay. So I'll fix it later. Okay. So I asked her, are your thoughts true? I want you to ask yourself, are your thoughts true? Here's how you know, because right now you probably think they're facts. Yeah, my body's disgusting. Everyone look at me, right? Would everyone in the world agree? If you can think of one person that might not think it's true, it's not a fact. And then here's the good news. You get to decide if you want to keep believing that or if you want to create a new thought. What do you think? Okay. What else could be true? When you think that, how do you feel? So what else could be true about your body? I asked her that, right? I ask my clients this all the time. What else could be true? I said, she said, well, it's not true that I have a healthy body. I'm like, okay. Well, do you have a body? Yeah. I'm like, okay, so is that true? Okay. And what do you think? What do you feel when you think that? She goes, that I have a body, that it's not bad, it's not good, it's just neutral. It feels a little better. Doesn't feel quite as defeated. So now you want to see if you can let yourself feel both your default negative thought that your body is gross and disgusting and your new neutral thought. And then you want to find proof of the neutral thought, how you just have a body. But it may not be true that it's gross and disgusting. That might just be your opinion of it right now. And when you're coming from that space, it's going to be really hard to create the result you want. So we want to create new thinking, guys. That's what's going to get us the results we want. That's going to get us to feel better and take better actions. Stick with our plan. So you want to feel the old thought, invite in the new thought, find proof of how the new thought could also be true, and then put more energy and intention on the new thought than the old thought. What we feed is what will thrive. What we starve is what will fade. So are you going to keep feeding the old default thoughts, or do you want to start to feed and create a new thought that serves you, that brings you closer to your goal? You get to make that decision. I encourage the latter. So let's just review this super quick. There's a trigger. You have thoughts about it. Notice your feelings. Feel all your feelings in your body. Don't resist them. This can last an hour, 2 hours, it can last a day. I don't know. It's going to be different for each of us. It's being willing to sit with it. Asking yourself, what thought made me feel this feeling in my body? Came from a sentence in your head. Comfort your default thought. Validate it because the brain likes that. And then invite in a new thought. Go gather some proof. Start to feel better. And then you don't eat to feel better. You just feel better on your own. You feel better by doing things for yourself, by taking care of yourself, following the program, a healthy lifestyle. Whatever it is your, whatever lifestyle choice you're following. So when people work with me, I don't give them a diet, but I do help them rewire their brain. I do create a protocol with you to follow based on your body type. We eat with the rhythms of nature, and that depends on your body, and it depends on your disposition. Right? We're not all built the same. So I invite you today to sign up for a free one-on-one consult with me so we can figure out where you are right now, where you want to be, what are the default thoughts, where do we need to start working on new thoughts, create a protocol for you to follow, and then create an action plan, right? So we can get you the results you want. So you can feel absolutely amazing in your body. You can learn to love yourself, accept yourself. I can tell you what happens when you do this work. Confidence, self-worth, self-trust, joy, a lot of frustration. Just kidding. So, you can't have one without the other. But I 100% promise you, whether you have 10 pounds, 20 pounds, or 30 pounds to lose, or you just want to stop using food to avoid your feelings, this stuff works. All right, guys, I hope you take a couple nuggets from that. Hope you find it helpful. I look forward to hearing from you. If you have any questions, feel free to just drop something in the chat box. I'll be on for about 1 more minute before I gotta go. You can always send me an email or find me on Instagram or Facebook. Thank you everyone for joining me, and stay safe.